There are a few things that generally tend to piss me off when it comes to modern, very highly respected reviewers. Number one, when they take a device which is a flagship and 1 year old, they title the video, "Is it worth it?" Number two, they make the video look spectacularly beautiful and lasts about 5 to 6 minutes long, but they don't actually tell you anything about the device. So, from my perspective, today we're going to talk about Galaxy S9, which is a 1 year old flagship. Is it worth it? Yes, of course it's worth it, because when it launched, it was between 700 and 800, depending on the market and the options that you chose for yourself. And given that it's an actual 2018 flagship, it has the specs to definitely be worth it and perform. The question is it worth it to you? Depending on what you would use any phone for, is it actually gonna do you good? Would you actually be able to use it and fulfill your daily needs one day to another? So, as for the design, you have a glass sandwich design. There are some things I like, some things I don't like. Number one, it's very similar to the Galaxy S8, which is generally a good thing. This is a gorgeous phone. Thin bezels, glass sandwich, and that's all perfectly fine. Number one, the Bixby button is definitely useless and at a very, very bad place. Very often when I want to press the power button, I have to provide force on the opposite side of the phone, which usually ends in clicking the Bixby button, which is a disaster. That's number one. Number two, the volume rockers are on the top left side, which makes it very difficult, given the fact this is still a big phone, to reach for them when I actually want to press the audio. Now, bezels. Bezels of the phone are generally small, which I appreciate because there is no notch. Like Samsung has never put a notch on their flagship, and that's an amazing thing because you have an actual proper display. However, when you're playing video games, especially if you play as much as I do, when you hold the phone sideways, it becomes a little bit difficult to play. Like I said, this is a personal preference. Doesn't necessarily have to be objective, maybe subjective on my side, but if you're a gamer, keep that on your mind that playing like this can, from time to time, actually be a little bit difficult. The fingerprint position has changed to a much better position. That's a good thing. The camera has a slight bump, which you can see from here. It's not a big bump, and the actual lens is inside this bump, so it doesn't get scratched that much, but the bump exists. Some people might mind that, some people won't. The phone is definitely thick, but given that it has rounded edges on both sides of the phone, back and front, this is not so much noticeable, and it's actually very ergonomic in the hand when you're holding it. One thing I also don't like as well is when you're using the display, my Sony phones have an oleophobic coating that repels fingerprints. This one doesn't. If you use this for an hour or so, especially if you're at a very sunny place and you get sweaty a lot, you will have a problem that you will have too many fingerprints on your screen. Personally, some people won't mind that, some will. I had a problem with it, I didn't like it, so it is what it is. And at the end of the day, this is still a big phone. Whether it's durable or not, this is a glass sandwich. You can drop it once, maybe it will survive, maybe it will not. You can drop it twice if you're really lucky, it will. But glass on the back, glass on the front, and given the fact that the actual screen and the back side of the phone protrude into the sides, I'm pretty sure that if you drop this more than once or twice, or if you drop it at a very, very hard surface, from a very big height, I'm pretty sure that you might run into a problem. Now, with the design out of the way, let's go into the software. The software is Android 9 Pie with One UI. This phone had a few updates since it has been launched, and it has definitely been improved. If I remember the old days of Samsung Galaxy S4 and S5 with Pitchwisse, I mean, that software was an absolute disaster and nightmare. This software is exceptionally user-friendly, and it focuses a lot on using the phone single-handedly. There are also gestures on the bottom that you can use instead of the actual navigation bar. I don't like that personally, but for you that do like this, it does exist. The software is relatively smooth, because like I say, I come from a series of Xperia devices where the Xperia devices are generally known to be very close to stock Android and exceptionally lightning fast, even the old models. This one tends to glitch from time to time, half a second, maybe a second. I'm nitpicking. For me, this is a big deal. For most of you, it will not be. You do have some cool features. You have the night mode, which changes the actual UI of the phone from black to white. I prefer the black one, saves battery, it's much easier on the eyes. I use it in 1080p resolution because it's very difficult to tell the difference, but at the same time you conserve battery and you optimize performance. What I don't like is that, first of all, I prefer to use sRGB on my phone because when I take photos I actually like to see what colors are presented in the actual photos. But when you use the adaptive display, this is the only display setting that actually lets you deal with the temperature of the colors. However, for me personally, the adaptive display punches colors. They're like a little bubblegummy, oversaturated for my taste. I don't like that. In basic mode, you do not have the option to tweak the color temperature of the display. Speaking of the display itself, it's 1440p panel, 5.8 inches across. This is the standard. This is the best display out there. It's a Samsung AMOLED display. It really doesn't get any better than this. If you like to watch multimedia, YouTube, Netflix, you watch movies, TV shows, whatever you do, like on this display, that's going to look absolutely amazing. It does not get any better than this. You get 60 frames per second. That's the refresh rate, and this is paired with a pair of stereo speakers, one front firing on the left side, and on the bottom side you still have a bottom firing speaker, which can be cuffed very easily. It's the problem that I had on my S8, also a problem that I have on my S9, but the speakers are very clear. Samsung has included Dolby Atmos, which boosts the mids of these speakers and gives you very clear bass. It will not give you deep bass, but it will give you clear bass. And you also have a few options to choose from, whether you're watching movies, music, or just listening to plain voice. It will tweak the sound signature a little bit differently.
What would Marcus say if he were here today? What would Rocco say if he were here today?
So as you can see, at max volume there is no distortion. The sound is absolutely beautiful, absolutely perfect, and like I said, this display with these speakers for consuming content, media content, like I said, whether it's YouTube or Netflix or whatever your poison is, it's absolutely amazing. Now, speaking of the headphone jack, and yeah, look, there is a hole. Like, you can put your actual headphones in. Flagships. Anyway, as for the audio experience, I had mixed feelings. First of all, it's this is a high-res audio deck inside. You get 32-bit resolution, and it's played at 320 hertz frequency. So technically, the output of this hardware is brilliant. Like, you can really maximize the audio output. The problem is the software. The bass is overpronounced and there is no floor for the bass. If you're listening to pop, if you're listening to, I don't know, Lady Gaga or Sia or whatever your poison is, it's gonna sound fine. If you're listening to old school heavy metal, something from the 80s that was produced a little less loudly, like for example Iron Maiden or Def Leppard, it's definitely gonna sound great. But if you're listening to something that has a bass which is a little bit wilder, like if you're listening to Uncle or you're listening to Muse or something similar, your bass is going to feel like somebody has been hammering a nail into your eardrums. And for me, this was a big issue. It was a big issue to the point where I actually ported the Sony Music app into this phone, hoping that I would get Sony's audio tweaking software. But when I actually go to the audio settings, it takes me to the Samsung stock audio settings. Here you can tweak your bass, treble, instrument, vocals. You can turn Dolby Atmos on and off, but this is the most important part of the audio features. Here you can actually tweak that floor which I was talking about. It's not perfect. I wish they gave me more options. I've been playing with it for hours. I've been trying to figure it out, and for me personally, I've been listening to this on Sony's 100 AAPs, on Xiaomi's one more triple driver Bluetooth earbuds, on Apple's regular earbuds, and the stock Samsung AKG ones, and it's decent. But if you listen to music on this for longer than, let's say, hour and a half, I had ear ringing problems. Like, I really have. The sound is not wide enough, and the bass is overpronounced in some situations where I wouldn't like it to be. If you know what you're doing, you can squeeze a really good sound out of this. for my personal preference, I still prefer Sony. Now, camera. The camera UI with the software update has been the same as on the new Galaxy S10. You have the selective focus, which works really, really well. Let me show you. This is actually a selective focus macro shot from what I see. Yeah. So you see that the front object is very sharp. The background image, the objects in the background are very blurred. 9 times out of 10, it's going to do an absolutely amazing job. One thing that really pisses me off is the fact that it keeps asking for permissions to use network connections, and there's no permanent deny. So every time that you open the camera, it's going to keep asking you that. One thing that was the main selling point of this phone is what Samsung called photography reimagined or something like that. It has a dual lens aperture, it goes from 1.5 to 2.4, and this is actually very useful. This is a photo that I took last night, and one thing that is really good, because of this feature, the lower aperture actually made it possible to get a lot of light in and really, really not use in details or clarity of this photo. Even though I was shooting at the actual lights directly, I got a few flares, and this picture actually looks much better than what my camera is showing you, because you can actually see lanterns. I'm pretty sure that on the video you will just see like white spots. But all in all, this is a really decent picture. This is a photo that was taken in pitch black situation. Like, it was pitch black, and the camera has managed to get enough light in to actually show me a portion of the sky that I couldn't see with my naked eye. However, given that it had a lot of there was no enough light, there is a certain amount of post-processing that has to go in the background. If you're gonna choose between this phone and you're gonna choose between this phone and let's say a Pixel 2 or Pixel 3, when it comes to low light photography, this phone utilizes a hardware solution, whereas Pixel goes for the software solution. Me personally, I would always go for an actual hardware solution than a software solution, but this is a personal choice. Both phones are absolutely amazing. They're great. Battery life, as you can see, I have 39% left. It's the end of the work day today. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. This should be in general management, battery usage. Yeah, I had 3 hours and 43 minutes of screen on time. To be honest with you, for a phone that that has a Snapdragon 845 processor, to get 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, for me, it's not good. I come from a series of Xperia XZ1, units that generally tend to last me 7 to 8 hours of screen on time. So for me, I think they could have done better. Gaming is absolutely great. Like, you don't even have to question this, because, well, it's a Snapdragon 845 processor. It's a modern flagship. Gaming is gonna be perfect. I played PUBG, I played Fortnite on this. Here we have Asphalt 8. Like, definitely an absolutely brilliant performer in the gaming section. I mentioned the bezel problem before. It does tend to cause a few problems here and there. Me personally, I don't really admire it that much. I don't like it. It makes it a little difficult. But for people who don't play video games, it's not going to be a problem. As you can see, it's not dropping any frames. The game is absolutely perfectly smooth, highest settings possible. I'm still cuffing the right speaker with my finger, which is not a good thing. I'm not really happy about it, because then I'm psychologically trying to make myself hold the phone in a very uncomfortable position where I'm actually not squeezing it tight enough. Is this good? No, not really, but it's a design thing. If you can get a few grips, buy some third-party joypads, that will solve all your problems. But performance-wise, when it comes to games, this will chew through anything. I wish I could have played Implosion on this device, but Implosion has still not issued a software update for Android Pie devices, and I cannot believe that the game that charges $10 for a one-time purchase does not run on any single Android Pie device. That is a really decent job you've done there, Rayark. So that's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure this covers all the basics of the phone. If you have any other questions, please let me know down in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. Would I recommend this phone? Definitely yes. 300 to 400 euros you can buy this depending on the market. In China, Samsung phones are not very popular, so you will be able to find it to about $300 to $350, euros. New in the European market, it's a little bit higher because Samsung phones are generally very popular in Europe. Let's say around 400 euros. You can definitely find used units at about 300, even refurbished maybe. But that's pretty much it. Should you buy it? Yeah, definitely. Like, great photography, great phone, not really great battery life. For media consumption is absolutely brilliant, gaming brilliant. I personally don't like the size, I like smaller phones. This is why I use the Xperia XZ1 Compact. But other than that, it's a great phone, really is. Even though it's 1 year old, there is no difference. It will chew through anything you throw at it, and it will do an absolutely marvelous job. See you in the next one.